Juventus have been going nowhere for the last 5 or 6 years, and in an effort to arrest their slump, they have appointed Thiago Motta as their new manager, who has been taking Serie A by storm over the last few years, propelling Bologna into Champions League contention. And Juventus have wasted no time at all in redeveloping and remodelling their squad, with huge big name signings incoming in this summer window. We've seen Douglas Luiz, we've seen Tuncut Miners, Francesco Conceição, Nico Gonzalez, and Kefren Turam. And now that the summer transfer window's closed, it's time for us to take a little step back and have a look at this Juventus squad. Can they actually challenge for the Scudetto? Are they going to be a force again in the Champions League? And is this the beginning of a new dynasty at Juventus? At any point in the video today, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this as we get stuck into all the big football news and developments across the 24-25 season. And get into the comment section in this one and let me know, what do you think of the Juventus squad? Can they challenge Inter Milan for the Scudetto? Can they go far in the Champions League? I'll be looking forward to catching your comments on this one. And yeah, let's just get stuck into it. Because Juventus is a club we've been following all the way through the summer transfer window. Since Motta's appointment, I've definitely been giving Juventus an extra little bit of attention. I've definitely been double checking what they've been up to every so often. Because coming into this year, I think Juventus could go from really nowhere in Serie A and in European football and really come back into the fore very, very quickly. We've seen so many European giants really fumble the ball when it comes to transitioning through different generations, different dynasties and eras of important managers or really strong and prominent squads. And Juventus have definitely been fumbling the ball over the last couple of years, but by appointing Motta and some of the transfers that we mentioned in the intro, I think they might be on for arresting that slump quicker than most other European giants have done so in recent times. And when we have a look at the squad, like really the general head count here is phenomenally big. You know, there's a big squad here. We've got 2 positions to a player in defence and in midfield. And when it comes to attack, like, yeah, we've got cover 2 men to a position, but so many of these players in midfield, in attack and in defence are very, very versatile. So much so we've already seen 3 games go this season, and we've seen Thiago Motta's Juventus play a number of different systems and have a number of different combinations of personnel in defence and midfield in particular. But one of the big summer signings, maybe the biggest summer signing that they made, Tuncut Miners coming in from Atalanta, who won the Europa League last year, didn't happen until the very end of the window. So now that we're in the international break, I think this is going to be a time where Juve do kind of reform and they look to gel the squad before really going at it in what seems to be the business end of the season already, after this international break with the domestic fixture list piling up, as well as those Champions League fixtures coming out as well. But Cut Miners is a guy that's made an amazing reputation for himself across European football, is a very creative and very technically and very intelligent player. From AZ Alkmaar, coming into the Serie A and playing for Atalanta in a very gung-ho system, this is a guy that likes to be on the ball, is a match winner, and potentially really gives Juventus a sort of Kevin De Bruyne-esque player in their team that, sure, he's not that quick and he's not that strong and all the rest of it, but in the forward areas, he's proven to be one of the best playmakers in Italian football, and like we've seen in Serie A, he's definitely no slouch when it comes to the European competitions as well. And this position for me is probably one of the most vital when it comes to redeveloping and remodeling squads, because of course you want the defence to be tight and organised, and you want to have fullbacks that can bomb on. You need to have good quality and depth here, and really, like, there's all sorts of ages and profiles all the way across this defence here. And the Italians do love their defence. They do love to keep the goals conceded to a minimum. But especially when it comes to winning the title and when it comes to doing something in European football, you need to have that edge. You need to have that guile to be able to cut opposition teams open and to take those chances when they come. So as much as Douglas Luiz is probably the headline transfer, and I think him in the engine room alongside a Locatelli, maybe even a McKennie or a Fagioli, depending on availability and fitness, I think we all fancy it probably be Turam once everything's kind of bedded in here. Again, this is an engine room, this is a base, this is a great foundation on a squad that can now try and like lose less games, keep games tighter, and, you know, physically covering grass, going box to box, going line to line in this kind of double pivot engine room here, gives this team a fantastic base to build upon. So the defence in Italian teams and in Juventus has always been quite strong over the last couple of years, if not glamorous. But what these teams really do miss out on is connecting the back to the front. And although Douglas Luiz, I think, is a great player for doing that, he needs someone a little bit more advanced than him to link with and then subsequently try and find those wide forwards, try and find that target man. And honestly, like, if you're to look at this squad and think that the goalkeeper, some of the backup defenders, some of the fullbacks, but in particular, the starting 11, best midfield, and some of the wide forwards, if we're thinking about Gonzalez and Conceição, are all incoming signings. Juventus's net spend across this window is about 90 million euros, which is a lot of money for a big European club, especially for it to be negative with all the FFP and UEFA squad cost restrictions that are around there. But so many clubs, again, when they go into the market and they look to spend 100 million quid or something like that, they fumble the bag so often by spending so much of it on like one player that should develop the squad, maybe it doesn't quite fit into the overall makeup of the squad, and sometimes it takes more than one transfer window to really move it on here. But with the profile that they've got here, with the increasing quality of options in midfield, because yeah, Locatelli's fine, Fagioli's been fine, McKennie has been fine, to get Douglas Luiz, Thuram and Koopmeiners all in the one window, never mind before we talk about the forwards, Gonzalez and Conceição and whatever, Juventus for me have played Moneyball over this window, probably better than any other team in European football, with very minimal outgoings as well. Obviously Federico Chiesa was one of the headline outgoings because he went to Liverpool and they were really begging someone other than Roma to sign him. So it's not as if they've had to sell a star asset, their best player, to really go and fund this. So you know, when I look at the base of defence and midfield here, this is what gives me a lot of reason to be optimistic about Juventus, because dominant teams in Italian football, any European league, of course, if they've got a fox in the box, a bit of a predator, an arrowhead forward, like a Dusan Vlahovic or an Arkadiusz Milik, they've always got the chance of getting 20 goals as an individual striker, and then subsequently you'll find Juventus typically in the top 4, top 3, kind of comfortably enough because they're a strong team, they've got decent enough players. But the likes of Kostic, Weah's been fine, Cambiasso's been fine, yeah, but they need to get that extra killer edge in attack. And for the style of play that Thiago Motta is going to deploy, where this arrowhead forward is going to be really high and press onto the back line, he needs guys that are going to be really, really smart out of possession to go and try and press the opposition defence for high turnovers. And Koopmeiners, I very much expect to do that kind of Lewis Ferguson role that we've seen at Bologna, and kind of accompany the forwards to make sure the passing lanes behind the players that he's closing down aren't as readily available. But with the likes of Yildiz, Conceição, Bangula, who I'm not too familiar with, but he's been playing quite a lot this season and doing pretty well, alongside Gonzalez and Weah, gives this team, like, honestly, like, I'm struggling when I was doing this video thinking about where to start, which is why I've just kind of dived into it, because the whole team is so well-rounded. Like, I've not seen many squads go through a transfer window, bring in so many different players, and they do quite seamlessly actually fit together. I think one of the problems will be picking the best 11, because Yildiz is featured regularly, the Juventus fans love him, he's got great talent, but Conceição's had a great kind of up-and-coming career at Porto. He's come in for big money. I would expect to see him feature regularly, as well as Fiorentina's former player Nico Gonzalez and Timo Weah on the other side. So when I'm looking at Serie A and I'm looking at Juventus in general, I'm really starting to think that they could have a very memorable season, because of course Inter Milan have been ever present, very dominant. AC Milan won a Scudetto a few years ago under Pioli. They've now got a change of manager, and it doesn't really seem to be all that rosy for them. And then when you look at the other contenders around Serie A, they'll be playing in the Europa League and the Conference League and all these other things as well. And you know, their squads are maybe just as good as Juventus, but maybe not quite as deep as the quality that Juve have across all the major positions here. So I wouldn't be surprised if we did see Juventus pick up a Scudetto this year. I wouldn't be surprised if we've seen Juventus get back into the quarters, maybe even get back into the semis of the Champions League and really cause some upsets and really ruffle some feathers, because like I've been trying to say when I've been going through this squad, like, I don't really see any great weakness here. I don't really see any obvious hole, any obvious gap, or, you know, like, oh, they've lost this player in midfield and that's going to be a huge burden for other players to carry now. Like, they've only added, and the additions they've made have been like really solid caliber. There's not too many guys here that are taking on a whim or a bit of a punt. Maybe Conceição isn't proven in a top league yet, you could maybe say that. But with him now playing for Portugal and some other, also his European experience with Porto, it's not as if it's a new thing to him altogether. And overall, I don't think it's going to be long before everyone is going to be talking about the style of football the Juventus are playing, how exciting they look, and really how far they can go this year. Because when they're going to be pressing with these front players like we've just mentioned, the way they like to have their fullbacks, the way Thiago Motta likes to have his fullbacks, is really high and really high and offensive as well, which is underlines why these transfers here have been even more important, because then they become the guys that will protect the castle. They're the guys that protect the centre ground. They're the guys that try and snuff out the counter attacks. And hey, if the ball does go over the top of them, they're looking at recovery pace. They're looking for the sweeper keeper. They're looking for those fullbacks that can track the winger into the back post. And like I say, if you're to build this team on paper, you would really be struggling to do better business than what Juve have done over this window. And really, they've hit the ground running in a big way. Now, Playing Cesc Fabregas's Como in the opening game of the season at home, you would expect them to win, and it's ended up being a very convincing 3-0 victory. Following that up with an away performance against Verona, who are a bit of a banana skin in Serie A, particularly at home. Although they're not that formidable a side, they've got a really good scout and a really good transfer department. Again, a 3-0 victory. We're seeing a lot of familiar faces, but the style, the system, there's a bit of a change here. But then in the third match day, the last game right before the international window, they take on Daniele De Rossi's Roma, who will also be featuring them on the channel because their transfer window has been equally as impressive. And they've come out of this with a 0-0 victory, which is very Italian, very, very Serie A. Top of the table clash. It's not that exciting. There's not that many goals. It's about not making any mistakes and not giving that other team something else. Like I mentioned before with Chiesa, he was on his way to Roma, and Juve were looking at it and thinking, hey, Roma are actually pretty strong. Let's cancel that. Let's not let them get any stronger thanks to us. So to get a draw at home to Roma, I think that will buoy the spirits very much. 7 points in the first 3 games for Juventus as they come into the international break before, like I mentioned before, coming back into the business end of the season where they'll be playing Champions League and the league. So yeah, I just really wanted to make a video talking about where Juventus are at. I'm quite excited for them, lay out this team for you and let you know the good business they've done. And now throughout the season we can kind of kick back and watch and see how this develops, because Motta's football at Bologna, for me, I managed to watch a lot of Bologna over the last couple of years, was breathtaking. It was a lot of fun to watch, and as you can see against Verona and Como there, 3-0, 3-0. This team is going to score a lot of goals domestically. Of that, I have no doubt. On screen and now is some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more. Jump into the comment section and let me know what you think about Juventus' chances this year. Stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next one.